Live from the offices of Transport Topics, here's your host, Dan Ronan with Transport Topics Radio.
Welcome to the second hour of Transport Topics Radio here on SiriusXM, Channel 146. It's our mission here at TTR to bring you the latest news and information direct from the reporters who are out there covering the stories, as well as bringing you interviews with the news makers as well. To stay updated with any of these developing stories, visit ttn.ws/radio or follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Transport Topics. And to get more Transport Topics audio content, try our daily briefing, available on Amazon Alexa, Google Assist, Spotify, Google Play, and iHeartRadio. A couple of great guests in this hour of the broadcast. Mark Manduca joins us. He's the Chief Investment Officer at the new company, the spinoff, GXO, and we will talk about how that logistics company will be structured and what we can expect in that space moving forward. And later, we'll talk with former ATA Chairman Mike Card and Andrew Owens, the CEO of A&M Transport, about ways to recruit new people into the trucking industry. But first, our conversation with Mark Manduca from GXO. Joining us on the Newsmaker line from London is Mark Manduca. He's the new Chief Investment Officer of GXO Logistics. It is the spinoff of XPO that is taking place right now. Glad to have you aboard with us, Mark. Are you, I would imagine, quite excited about what will be taking place in the next several months? Let's talk about that a little bit. What's going to happen?
So excited. I mean, we're really proud to be able to show off and showcase this fabulous asset to investors. We put out our Form 10 recently, as you know, and it's the clearest signpost yet that we're on track to spin out our contract logistics business under the new company called GXO in the third quarter. It is in so many ways a spin out that represents a company that is best in class at standing up very complex, technologically advanced supply chain solutions for customers, and we do it at scale and with speed. So it's a fascinating business model, and we're one of the global leaders in the contract logistics sphere.
Mark, timing is everything in the business world, as you know, and we have gone the past 16 months in this horrible pandemic in all over the world. But out of this has come this staggering, and it is a staggering change in the world economy. Now where so much of what is being transported is being done final mile. The timing on this seems to be quite optimal, doesn't it?
You're totally right in so many ways, Dan. And from our perspective, what we're seeing is not just a post-pandemic veneer of e-commerce growth, but we're actually seeing three coalescing forces come together at the same time in an industry that has been crying out for secular change for the last 20 years. If you go back 20 years ago, this was an industry that was slightly more price focused. And in some people's eyes, it was a commodity. And what we've seen is through the combination of three secular growth drivers, e-commerce, as I mentioned, but also automation and outsourcing. Those three secular growth drivers have coalesced to create phenomenal growth within our industry at a time where customers are crying out for four very clear tenets. And that is, one, can you provide me with scale? Two, can you provide me with globality? I.e., are you multinational? Can you give me the contract in Leicester the same way that you can give me a further contract down the road in Indiana? Can you provide me with a good balance sheet, i.e., that there's good counterparty and it's a trust relationship over 10, 15, in some cases 20 years? And then finally, number four, can you provide me with the technology that I need? And if you can bring those four things together in a hugely high growth market where people are outsourcing and people want e-commerce and want reverse logistics, and they want to remove the supply chain from their own in-house balance sheet and move it onto ours, then you've ultimately got the makings of great company spinning out great company. And that's what GXO is. This is a business right now that is in the throngs of secular growth and playing in the crosshairs of an industry that has fundamentally changed, fundamentally been driven away from just price, and actually now about high value added services, scalable, global production with a real big focus on e-commerce, which is what we offer. So we are in the right place at the right time, Dan.
Could this have been done 2 years ago had these seismic changes not really begun to step up?
E-commerce had very much begun, as you know. I mean, e-commerce has been a theme for the last 20 years. But look at the penetration rates. If you look at e-commerce penetration in most countries. We're talking about no more than 20% in the majority. If you look at automation, the industry right now, from a warehousing perspective, a contract logistics perspective, is barely 10% automated. At most, outsourcing, if you look across most markets, our key North American and European markets, 2/3 of our revenue comes from Europe, 1/3 comes from North America. Outsourcing is barely 30% penetrated. So we have huge runways still to hit. So 2 years ago, I absolutely agree with you. The growth was there. And in so many ways, it's all coming together now post the pandemic in an even heightened fashion. And there's lots and lots of runway to play for. This is not a 1 or 2 year type trade. This is a multi-year secular growth story.
How would you keep the two companies? XPO has had such a nice run over the last several years since it came into being. How would you keep from stepping into their lane? How will these be two distinct companies?
I would argue it's had almost more than a nice run. I mean, it's up more than tenfold, and quite frankly, in
Okay, I'll
terms of
change it.
the
I'll say spectacular. I'll change it.
exactly, I guess couple of things to be aware of in terms of the spin out and why are we spinning out the company. I think is at the essence of your point. We're spinning out XBO, as you know, in the third quarter of this year. We're spinning out from XBO because primarily the opportunity I think it provides for not only GXO, but also XBO itself and their stakeholders to unlock trapped equity value. And to be precise about that, I think we expect each business to trade at a sharp premium to XBO's current multiple. But there are other reasons as well. I would highlight the fact that each company after the spin will have a more attractively valued pure play equity currency to in effect attract talent and to engage in accretive strategic transactions in a market that is growing, both organically and potentially inorganically as well. And each company, I think, will be able to tailor their capital structure and capital allocation to their own strategic priorities. And in the case of GXO, which is the company obviously that I will be representing as the Chief Investment Officer, it's important to note that point that I made earlier about good balance sheet will be investment grade out of the gate on day one. So it's the right place at the right time, and I think it's the right decision for both companies and their respective shareholders.
As I've read your description in the release that talks about what you'll be doing, you'll be working as the conduit then to the investment community, to the financial world, to tell them about the GXO story. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're all about. This is how we can all work together and hopefully, create a very strong company and make some money along the way.
Completely agree with you. I love speaking to investors. I love doing shows like yourselves. I love speaking to the media. It is a phenomenal job that I have, and I'm very proud of being able to, as I mentioned, showcase this asset to not only the investment community but the broader retail community as well. We've got an amazing story to tell, and we're working with our partners to make sure that we deliver that story and achieve the right multiple for this great business going forwards.
Why was it important at this time to do this? I mean, as I said, we're coming out of the pandemic. The economy is starting to take off. But at what point did the folks at XPO say, you know what, we've got something of value here. It's time to give it its own lane. It's time to create something that's a little different, but it's time to take it off in a different direction. And when did that happen?
I think it's all about unlocking trapped equity value. It's all about making sure that this company can have its own tailor-made capital structure to make its decisions on its own behalf. When you've got three within the conglomerate as it stands at the moment, when you've got three businesses that make very different returns because of the varying capital employed in each of the businesses, capital allocation can be hard. And when you have your own ring-fenced entity, capital allocation by definition gets more focused on strategic priorities. Great company spinning out great company. And I do think that this will serve a purpose for both XBO and GXO.
Mark Manduca joins us on the Newsmaker line. He is the new Chief Investment Officer of GXO Logistics, Inc. We'll continue our conversation here on Transport Topics Radio on SiriusXM Channel 146.
This is Transport Topics Radio with your host, Dan Ronan.
We're back on Transport Topics Radio here on SiriusXM Channel 146. Mark Manduca is our guest. He is the new Chief Investment Officer of the XPO spinoff, GXO Logistics. Talking, Mark, about this explosive growth in e-commerce, how does the company intend to capture that segment? We've seen this grow in terms of a share of the economy by about 8% in the last year. They were talking about, e-commerce getting to this point by 2026, but lo and behold, here we are at the midway point of 2021, and we're already 5 or 6 years ahead of time. How are you going to capture this share of the growth? And what are your customers? Who are they going to be? Who are those that you're talking to? If you can tell us a little bit about the type of customer you're going to be working with.
Absolutely, Dan. I mean, we've built a leading position in e-commerce with 40% of our revenues from omni-channel retail and e-commerce specifically. Now, if you look at e-commerce, it's obviously substantially outgrowing the broader economy. And you saw that, as I mentioned, in our very strong guide for 2022 that we gave as part of the Form 10 release that I mentioned at the start of our meeting. We operate the largest outsourced e-fulfillment platform in Europe, and I think we have a commanding presence, quite frankly, in not only Europe, but also the North American market. Our presence, I think, will continue to grow as e-commerce continues to win market share from typical brick and mortar retail. And like I mentioned earlier, we have an expertise in reverse logistics. There are many customers that come to us for reverse logistics. 1 in 3 items that you buy online gets returned. And that requires logistical know-how. And it also creates a logistical problem for our customers, a problem that we have the know-how to solve. So e-commerce for us is a very strong avenue of growth. It's an exceptionally strong end market. And within that, we do reverse logistics in a unique manner, and we do it to scale, and we do it best, I think, on a global basis when it comes to managing some of our amazing blue chip customers that we partner with. When it comes to thinking about those blue chip customers, let me give you a few stats to strengthen this notion that I've given you about a durable long-term business that's diversified. No single customer in our mix makes up more than 4% of our revenues, which stresses this point of diversification. And our top 20 customers have on average partnered with us for 15 years, which plays tenant to the fact that our customers sign over 5-year contracts with us. Customers are with us for a long period of time, very high retention rates in regards to revenue, and we are very much exposed to that e-commerce theme, that high growth e-commerce theme that you talked about, Dan.
When you talk about returns, it used to be if you bought something at the store and it didn't fit, or it didn't work, or it broke, you would just take the receipt and drive back to the store and go to the customer service line and stand in line, and then they would, either refund it or would do or give you an exchange, whatever it was. That whole model has been disrupted. It's changed because now the options are send it back, throw it out, or put it in a closet and just forget about it.
Very much so. And what I liked about your example is that it sounded like it took about a day to get your product returned. Getting into
Oh yeah, at least.
car, standing in line, complicated, right?
Yeah. It wasn't an easy process. It was, it was the slog. I've got to go back to the store and stand in line. There's 8 people ahead of me, and hopefully, I've got the right receipt, and you know the drill.
Exactly, and we've simplified that process. Customers are demanding it. The customers of our customers are demanding it, and we provide that solution. I would say the one thing about our business that I really love is the consumer focus about the end markets that we serve. It's not just the 40% of our revenue that comes from e-com and omni-channel retail. We've got food and beverage that makes up 13%, consumer packaged goods that makes up 13%, consumer tech, which makes up 11%. We've got half of our business in consumer technology and e-commerce. So in so many ways, this is a consumer end market that we're servicing, and therefore we're on the pulse of the consumer, I believe. The way that we do it is that we really focus on precision and driving scale through our business model and our customers' business model. And what do I mean by that? When I talk scale, I'm really linking back to this idea of automation. Now, if we look at how we have a leading tech innovation product, within logistics, this includes everything from robots, goods-to-person systems, and wearable technology. And this drives this reverse logistics model that you're talking about, Dan, the idea of getting something quickly back into the front store so that it can be sold again after it's been returned. This is integral to our process. And we've also, on the software side, developed a proprietary software tool called XBO Smart, which drives significant labor productivity, as I'm sure you know. On average, it's about 5 to 7%. My point is very simple. We are experts at integrating robotic solutions, particularly on the reverse logistics side, on a customized basis. That's what we offer our customers, and we drive savings in the process. At scale, precision, that's what we're about.
Mark, are you concerned that there is a lack of warehouse space? We have imports that are flooding our shores, and the ports are quite busy and will likely remain busy for the next 6 months. But we've got real problems with inventory. And as I said, we've got warehouse shortage. There's a lot of the not in my backyard feeling among folks when it comes to repurposing land for warehouse. Any concerns about that we're going to have to come to grips with this that say, if you want goods, 6 hours from the time you hit the command on your keyboard to the time it lands at your door, you're going to have to make a trade-off.
I hear all your concerns, Dan, and it definitely doesn't make me happy as a spectator. But from our perspective, I would say that whether it's inflation, whether it's warehouse price increases, whether it's changes in just-in-time inventories, warehousing needing to be closer to the end market, that last mile that you talked about earlier, Dan, the reality is all of these things are exactly the reason why our customers need us. Supply chain functions are getting more and more complex. There's an increased expectation by our customers for precision and speed. And as those complexities rise and as the macro changes, customers need 3PLs, third-party logistics providers like us, more and more. So I don't want to turn it on its head, but as much as you mentioned points around, the Port of Los Angeles and inflation being a problem right now, the reality is it only makes it more complex for our customers, which only increases the need for a third-party logistics player.
So you have many ports such as Los Angeles, which are rapidly trying to digitize their operations to keep up with this. These are all things that are upgrades that clearly need to be done within the supply chain because, in some respects, the supply chain is still working from a technology standpoint years behind where it needs to be.
Couldn't agree more. Automation is something that's affecting all our industries at the moment. And the point that you made, I think, was a very good one. The way I see automation playing out is that we at GXO don't necessarily see the future as being people versus robots. We see the future as being people with robots. This is about enhancing performance in so many ways. And I'd love you at some point to come down to one of our warehouses to see it in action. It's truly a formidable sight. So we're very much, I believe, at sort of the cutting edge of tech innovation and making sure our customers can really enjoy some of those benefits and save costs in the process.
Yeah, there are concerns that some people raise that they say that, by automation that it will be a job killer. But as we experienced in the 1970s, when they put automatic teller machines in, the banking industry has more people working in it now than it did 40 years ago. And bank teller jobs are still out there. They're different, they've changed, but their responsibilities are still there and they're actually being paid more money.
Automation is about enhancing our teammates' experience. It's all about people and robots, not people versus robots, as you rightly say with your financial services example.
How much is Brad Jacobs involved in the spinoff? I know that he has been the leader of XPO for many years, its founder. How much of this is his vision?
It's in so many ways Brad Jacobs' vision. He is a phenomenal leader. I'm so amazingly happy to be working with him and to be learning from him on a day-to-day basis. He will be very much involved in the spin. He will be our chairman. Malcolm Wilson will be our CEO. And what I would say to that, Dan, very simply, is we're blessed with a world-class management team in this business. We've got pedigree that goes well beyond the front bench. It's a very, very deep bench. That's what I found in this business. It's Malcolm with his 3 decades of executive experience. It's Barish Oren, who I'd love you to meet at some point, who's a phenomenal CFO, with an extensive 20-year background in both capital markets and also omni-channel retail, to your questions earlier, as well as a strong track record in financial audit and control. And he was serving as the CFO of Turkey's Sabancı Group. We've got some amazing regional heads as well in the form of Richard in Europe and obviously Eduardo in North America. And it's a business that has a deep, deep bench, a very exciting catalog of individuals who are all focused on driving shareholder returns and making sure that we grow in a formidable fashion as a business.
Any concerns with you with moving to this side of the Atlantic after spending much of your career in Europe and in London doing what you do? I know that you'll probably be back and forth, but a bit of a transition for you.
My wife absolutely hates the weather in London. She cannot get more excited by the day. The way she's packing boxes with me, you can really see there's a vigor about her desire to want to leave dear old rainy London. I'm a huge fan of London. I've been a Londoner all my life, but I feel after 8 years of subjecting her to the weather in England, I thought that we'd do a similar amount of time over in the US. So this suits us very well as a couple.
Is she an American, or is she from the UK?
I'm pretty sure her passport says Queens, New York, but she tells cab drivers in London that she's from Beverly Hills. So we're still trying to work that one out.
So you'll be coming to the United States then very soon, and you've already started your responsibilities then.
Yes, absolutely. I've been at the business now for just over a month.
Well, good. Well, listen, best of luck, and we would certainly take you up on that offer to come when you get settled in to see one of your facilities and to spend some time with you in person. I'd like to do that. Real quickly, where can we find out more about the organization online? I know the XPO Logistics website, but does GXO have its own platform yet?
It does. It has its own website, which we've launched recently, and we've also got an Investor Day coming up on the 13th of July, which will hopefully be a formidable event.
Indeed, good. Our guest has been Mark Manduca. He is the new Chief Investment Officer of GXO Logistics, Inc. It is the spinoff of XPO Logistics, and he joins us on the Newsmaker line from London. This is Transport Topics Radio on SiriusXM Channel 146.